Let's get straight into it. Today, we are unpacking a highly provocative financial philosophy from Robert Kiyosaki, pulling directly from a viral speech he gave back in 2019. We're going to explore what we call the wealth dichotomy. Basically, it's this incredibly stark contrast between two very different ways of looking at money, education, and success. Whether you're already a huge fan of his work or you're just now stepping into these concepts for the first time, we're going to map out his exact arguments so you can really understand the mechanics of his mindset. It's a deep dive into why some people seem to just effortlessly build empires, while others are perpetually stuck running on a treadmill. Keep them poor. Now that is a heavy, highly controversial statement, right? According to the source material, Kiyosaki argues that there's an active resistance among the ultra-wealthy to share the actual mechanics of money with the general public. He claims the rich actively acknowledge that financial secrets are kept hidden to maintain the status quo. It's an intense claim, for sure, but it perfectly sets up the foundation of his entire philosophy. He fundamentally believes the traditional system isn't just accidentally bad at teaching financial literacy, he believes it's deliberately designed to withhold it. Which leads directly to a foundational question. At just 9 years old, Kiyosaki asked his dad, a highly educated man who was actually the head of education in his state, "Why don't we learn about money in school?" And it's a question I'm sure almost every single one of us has pondered while sitting in some high school classroom, wondering when we were going to learn how to actually do our taxes. Well, his father's response, according to the source, was that the government dictates the curriculum. And the ultimate goal of that schooling, it's simply to prepare you to get a job. Not to understand money, but to be a compliant employee. And this brings us right to the core dichotomy of our explainer. On one hand, we have what Kiyosaki calls his PhD dad, his biological father, highly educated, a government employee whose primary objective is job security, climbing the corporate ladder, and eventually collecting a steady pension. In stark contrast, we have his rich dad, who is actually his best friend's father. This man is an entrepreneur. He absolutely has to possess an intimate working knowledge of money, or his business simply ceases to exist. We are neutrally looking at these two entirely opposing viewpoints here. One relies on a massive system to provide security, while the other requires mastering that system just to survive. So, understandably confused by his own father's advice to just go to school and get a job, a 9-year-old Kiyosaki walked straight over to this rich dad's office and asked a very direct, incredibly bold question for a kid his age. How do I make money? He wanted the actual playbook. He didn't want the theoretical school lesson that ultimately just leads you to a cubicle. He wanted the real, unfiltered reality of how wealth is generated straight from an active, practicing entrepreneur. The rich dad actually agreed to teach him, but under one incredibly strict condition. Entrepreneurs work for free. Kiyosaki was told he would absolutely never receive a paycheck. The argument presented here is that the exact moment you accept a paycheck, your brain instantly shifts into an employee mindset. It's like a switch flips. You stop looking for vast opportunities and you start looking for localized security. You start calculating how many hours of your life you have to trade just to afford your rent, rather than thinking about how to build a system that pays the rent for you. This creates a massive psychological split. We have the employee trap, this comforting but inherently limiting belief that a company or the government is ultimately going to take care of you. Sure, it feels safe, but it basically creates absolute dependence. On the flip side, the entrepreneur path forces you to figure out how money actually operates. Working for free totally removes that safety net. You aren't trading your precious time for a guaranteed fixed dollar amount. You are trading your time to learn a system. It's a profound shift in perspective from hoping for a raise to mastering the art of creating real value. To build this into a tangible strategy, the rich dad actually used the board game Monopoly. The progression is simple but ruthless. Step 1. Work for free to learn the business from the ground up, doing literally everything from picking up cigarette butts to doing the accounting. Step 2. Use that foundational knowledge to buy 4 greenhouses. Step 3. Trade those 4 greenhouses for 1 red hotel. Kiyosaki emphasizes that this isn't just a fun family board game to play on a Friday night. It is a literal, real-world blueprint for acquiring and scaling assets over a lifetime. Now, to understand how this actually scales in reality, we have to understand assemblage. The source material recounts this fantastic anecdote where the rich dad slowly bought up small, adjacent shops in Waikiki, Hawaii, which, by the way, at the time was just a quiet little dirtwater town. He bought these properties one by one, methodically, over the years. Those small properties? Those were his greenhouses. Once he had assembled a large enough contiguous piece of land, he finally had the leverage to partner with a major corporation to build his Red Hotel. $800 million. Let that sink in. That Hyatt Regency Hotel, built on the land, assembled piece by piece in Waikiki, eventually sold for $800 million. It completely proves Kiyosaki's point. The monopoly formula is absolutely not just a metaphor for children. When you apply it to real-world real estate through disciplined strategies like assemblage, the scaling of assets from those tiny greenhouses to a massive red hotel yields very real, staggering financial results. But here's the catch. To achieve that kind of massive scale, you have to adopt a totally different view of failure. Simply put, mistakes equal growth. Kiyosaki points out a major flaw in traditional schooling. Think about it. We are taught to be absolutely terrified of making mistakes. If you fail a test in school, you're punished. You get a bad grade. But in the real world of money, you actually learn by making them. Genuine financial and spiritual growth requires experiencing both the good and the bad. If you only ever want to be right, or you only want to be perfectly safe, you are completely cutting yourself off from the realities of actual growth. Which brings us to a highly controversial concept from Kiyosaki's framework, the fake teacher. This is an instructor teaching a theoretical subject that they do not actively practice. Kiyosaki uses the example of asking his calculus teacher if he ever actually used strength of materials in real life. The teacher flat out admitted he didn't. He only taught it for the paycheck. Now, we've all been there, right? Trying to figure out how reciting the quadratic equation is actually going to help us negotiate a mortgage? Kiyosaki argues that a system built on instructors who don't practice what they preach is fundamentally out of ethics. In stark contrast, we have the real teacher. According to the source, a real teacher is an active practitioner. This is someone solving daily, real-world problems using the exact skills they are discussing. They aren't relying on textbook theory. They are operating in the trenches, dealing with real consequences and real money. This is exactly how the rich dad, who, remember, actually had to drop out of school at age 13 to run a struggling family business, ended up acquiring a massive, battle-tested financial education. So who are these real teachers? Well, they certainly aren't in traditional classrooms. Kiyosaki's actual educators, the people he literally has on speed dial, are bookkeepers, accountants, attorneys, bankers, and real estate agents. He learns every single day by actively solving complex business problems alongside professionals whose very livelihoods depend on understanding the actual current rules of money, debt, and taxes. It really forces you to ask yourself, who are you taking your financial advice from? Is it someone who just reads about the game, or is it someone who plays it every single day? Okay, let's pivot for a second to the psychological side of this philosophy. Words become flesh. Kiyosaki argues that your vocabulary literally dictates your financial destiny. The poor will always be among us not just because of a lack of capital, but because poverty fundamentally starts with a mindset. It starts with a fear mentality, and crucially, it manifests in the specific words people automatically choose to use when they're faced with a challenge or an opportunity. Consider the massive linguistic dichotomy between two really simple phrases. On one side, we have the statement, "I can't afford it." According to Kiyosaki, saying this literally shuts down your brain function. It's an easy escape from effort. You say it and your brain just kind of goes to sleep. But if you flip it to a question, "How can I afford it?" everything changes. A question forces your brain to wake up. It forces you to start problem solving. It demands creativity. Ultimately, your reality becomes what you repeatedly say. And this leads us to Kiyosaki's overarching and perhaps most provocative thesis of all: poverty is passed on. It's taught in families. The source material argues that financial struggle is a conditioned attitude. Well-meaning middle-class and poor parents unknowingly pass down their own fears, telling their kids to just put their heads down, get a safe job, or that wanting to be rich is somehow greedy. It's an inherited mindset. And confronting this forces us to look at our own deeply ingrained beliefs about wealth, which, let's be honest, can be incredibly uncomfortable, but it's absolutely necessary. Once you finally overcome that inherited mindset, you have to choose your focus. Kiyosaki points out that just like rugby and soccer are both team sports but have entirely different rules, the world of wealth is made of different games. You can't step onto a soccer pitch and play by rugby rules and expect to win, right? For Kiyosaki, his primary games became business and real estate. He dedicated his life to learning the intricate rules of these specific games from his real teachers, and he played them relentlessly. So, we leave you with a challenge. What is your financial game? Are you playing by the rules of the employee trap, just hoping a system eventually takes care of you in retirement? Or are you studying the Monopoly formula, surrounding yourself with real teachers, and asking, how can I afford it? The source material leaves us with this really powerful thought. Wealth isn't just about accumulating dollars. It's about defining your game and mastering the rules.